December 12, 1917, in the white snow-blanketed showers on the slopes of the French Alps. The train is carrying 1,000 people and tons of explosives are rolling along. It is undertaking a meaningful journey, bringing over 1,000 French soldiers back to their homeland, reuniting them with their families for Christmas and the New Year. However, a series of events unfolded. The train unexpectedly lost its brakes amidst a cliff over 700 meters above sea level. The picturesque green valley of Saint Michael de Maurienne suddenly turned into a mass grave. So what really happened? Hello, I'm glad to be here with you today. We will travel back in time to learn about a horrific railway tragedy in French history, one of the worst railway disasters of the 20th century. The military train was designated as M6-12. The train station in Modane, France, at 10 p.m. This small station is located near the border with Italy at an elevation of 1,040 meters above sea level. The train convoy M612 had departed from Turin and passed through the Mont Cenis tunnel, which serves as a gateway connecting the two countries. They had just stopped for a rest in their long 313-kilometer journey before reaching the city of Lyon. This train is a military convoy, transporting over 1,000 soldiers from the 46th and 47th Infantry Divisions of France, who are on their way home to reunite with their families for the Christmas and New Year holidays. This 15-day holiday is meant to boost the morale of the soldiers after facing widespread combat during the ongoing World War II. This happens in the context of World War II entering a bitter phase, and the Allied forces, including Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, are reinforcing support to the Italian front after painful defeats in the Cabulisto battles from October 24 to November 9, carried out by the German and Austrian armies. At this stop, some officers took advantage of their high ranks to disembark from the train and transfer to another express train to reach the capital city of Paris. Like most railcar designs of the time, the body of M6-12 was constructed entirely of wood, with only the frame and drive components being made of metal. At the beginning, the train had only 17 carriages. It was pulled by a 4-6 steam locomotive, a 5-axle passenger locomotive. Its dimensions were 12.14 meters in length, weighing 73.4 tons, and it could reach an impressive operating speed of 110 kilometers/h. However, due to a lack of physical infrastructure during the wartime, 2 additional carriages were added to it. Also, located on a train returning from Italy, to increase the number of troops transported without consuming too much fuel. Meanwhile, the remaining locomotive would be used to transport weapons and ammunition. Having this information in hand, the main controller of the train, Officer Durad, vehemently objected. He was concerned that overloading the train would pose an unforeseen danger to it.
Captain, nearly 1,000 people and tons of cargo. It's too much for a locomotive. It's too old to handle this kind of weight at this altitude. Please consider other options, he pleaded.
However, Major Fayolle, the commander of the French 6th Division and the person responsible for this transport operation, insisted on his decision and accompanied it with threats.
A familiar train driver who dares to defy the orders from higher-ups. In these chaotic times on the eve of the holiday, if you don't obey, you'll be brought before a military court tomorrow for an explanation.
But human lives are more important, sir.
Without letting Durad say anything more, another officer who controlled the station aimed a gun at his head and demanded a choice.
No need for more words. Either drive the train or die, you choose.
Overwhelmed by the terrifying threats, Durad eventually had no choice but to comply. So by now, the train had a total of 19 carriages, including 17 passenger carriages and 2 luggage carriages at the front and rear of the train. With a total weight of 526 tons and a length of up to 350 meters, M6-12 exceeded the allowed safety limits by 4 times. But that's not the worst part. As per an official source, only the first 3 carriages were equipped with an air brake system. All the remaining carriages had either hand-operated brakes or, in some cases, no brakes at all. That's correct. To deal with this situation, the management assigned 7 railway workers to different carriages. Their task was to manually apply the brakes when signaled by the locomotive's whistle. At precisely 23:15, after over an hour of waiting, the final train finally received the departure order and continued its journey with a total of 982 people on board. Right after leaving Modane, the train is currently heading towards Chambéry station on the Kilos-Modane line, a long and steep railway line in France. This railway line runs through the Alps, often referred to as the rooftop of Europe. In the early 20th century, most freight trains, including military trains in France, operated on this route. This ensured absolute safety and kept them away from any enemy attention and access. In the freezing cold of the midwinter night, intermittent snowfall descended. Occasionally, the sound of wheels gripping the rails echoed, creating a sporadic and somber atmosphere. On the train carriages, the atmosphere was somewhat warmer due to the cramped quarters. With no light from lamps, the soldiers lit candles, creating a flickering light in the night. They chatted and some sang, "We will meet Paname again. We will meet Paname again." Paname is a warm term meaning the capital, Paris. Everyone was filled with hope for tomorrow, looking forward to the moment they would reunite with their loved ones and families after the hardships of battle. Continuously crossing relatively flat stretches of track, at around 23:25, the train passed through a tunnel and entered a valley with more rugged and complex terrain. Here, the appearance of the first incline, with a gradient of about 30 degrees, became a real challenge for experienced conductors like Girard. He tried to apply all the skills he had, remaining as calm as possible to maximize braking. The sparks flew from the rails, and the screeching sound echoed as if tearing through the night. After a tense moment, luckily, the entire train was still able to move at a steady speed of about 10 kilometers/. It seemed that as they were getting accustomed to this type of terrain, the journey would become smoother. However, the real series of events was about to unfold. As it passed through the town of Frindy, entering an elevation differential area with residential areas up to 300 meters, encountering continuous steep slopes and unexpected turns, the M6-12 nearly lost control of its braking system. The compressed air was insufficient to salvage the situation. In just a few minutes, according to the gauge on the locomotive, the train had reached a speed of nearly 100 kilometers/a. Engineer Girard was both battling with the locomotive and simultaneously sounding the horn, signaling for manual handbrakes on the carriages to be fully engaged in an effort to reduce the speed to the lowest possible level. Due to the immense power of the train and the need to carry a massive load of people and cargo, the outdated manual braking system could only be partially remedied. The train was blaring its horns, rushing through a dark tunnel, and approaching Saint Michael de Larnier ever closer. It's a small town with around 2,500 inhabitants, perched on a steep cliff at an elevation of 700 meters above sea level. Along with its stunning natural beauty, It's considered one of the most picturesque regions in Marianne. However, alongside its romantic charm, it also carried a terrifying nickname, the Valley of Death. The train station in the town was only about 1.3 kilometers away, and around 23:35, the train was preparing to conquer another steep slope. In contrast to the first time, due to the excessive speed and steep incline, the train driver couldn't maneuver in time. While the maximum speed was set at 40 km/h, according to the engine's speedometer, M6-12 reached 100 km/h, and shortly after, it was going at 135 km/h. It sped through the Gotthard Bridge over the Alps River. With the train being overloaded and the braking system not being fully equipped, this happened, and it was the unfortunate event that no one had hoped for. As the train prepared to make a left turn at a curve and the brakes were applied too abruptly, the speed suddenly dropped to 102 km/h. This caused the leading luggage car to derail, and the couplings between the cars immediately broke. The train began to jackknife and turned 90 degrees due to inertia, with other cars crashing into the one in front, creating a tremendous force. The train slammed into the derailed car, causing an immediate collapse of the entire 19-car train. Flames erupted from the brake system, combined with the scent of burning candles. All the train cars were made of wood. But that's not all. There was a cruel twist of fate in that some soldiers had used tricks to transport grenades and bazookas onto the train. This unwittingly became the material for the subsequent explosions and intensified the raging fire even further. The horrifying tragedy at Saint-Michel-de-Maurienne. When the incident occurred due to an excessively strong collision, it resulted in the immediate deaths of many officers. Others were propelled out of the ship, while the remainder were struggling amidst a sea of flames. They were nearly incinerated, or at the very least, attained their freedom. Approximately 10 people attempted to jump to escape from the fire, but many others trapped in the wreckage chose to end their lives with guns or knives due to the unbearable heat. Some individuals persuaded other soldiers to shoot themselves when they couldn't end their own lives. This occurred because the ships of that time lacked advanced warning systems or rearview mirrors like today. The captain of the Dorade ship, too focused on the braking issue and failing to notice, left thousands of others behind. His engine's head continued to operate uncontrollably until he approached the green signal at Saint-Michel-de-Maurienne, at which point he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Ultimately, after regaining control of the enormous beast, he was horrified to find that all the other ships had disappeared. He encountered 2 army divisions resting at the train station and informed them of the situation, requesting their assistance in rescuing survivors. A message was also sent by the train station manager, urging another train crew to change direction towards the east to avoid a catastrophic head-on collision. Returning to the scene, the narrow mountainous area witnessed a catastrophic accident with limited escape routes for the heat generated by the raging fire. It resembled a pressure cooker with temperatures soaring to thousands of degrees Celsius against the bone-chilling backdrop of winter. In this accident, 17 train cars were completely destroyed, with only 2 rear cars suffering relatively minor damage, primarily baggage cars. Only the occupants of Car 18 were fortunate enough to survive the clutches of the Grim Reaper. They attempted to crawl out to rescue their comrades, but due to treacherous terrain, nearly an hour elapsed before the rescue team, led by Zirat, arrived at the scene. The intense heat from the fire impeded their approach, and it wasn't until the evening of the following day that the flames were fully brought under control. Approximately 600 victims were rescued from the wreckage, with lifeless bodies scattered amidst the bushes and grass. Survivors were transported to the local hospital. The casualty toll was overwhelming, leading a nearby macaroni factory to be temporarily converted into a makeshift hospital and morgue. Another 37 soldiers perished, their bodies found along a slope. It is presumed they attempted to jump to safety. Over 100 initial survivors succumbed either at the hospital or on their way there within 2 weeks due to severe injuries and burns. In the end, only 183 individuals, including train operators and other brake personnel, were saved. The estimated death toll ranged from 700 to 800 people, and many soldiers were not accounted for as they boarded the train without authorization. More than 100 victims were never identified and were laid to rest in a communal grave near a local cemetery. These soldiers departed from their families and loved ones, never to be reunited. With such a staggering loss of life, the Saint-Michel-de-Maurienne train disaster is considered the worst railway accident in history. It only stands second to another tragic incident, which occurred when a train derailed and plunged into a tsunami in 2004 in Sri Lanka, resulting in an estimated death toll of nearly 2,000 people. This event has also been depicted in another video of ours. However, an argument has been put forth that these two events cannot be compared, as one was a natural disaster, while the other was a direct operational failure. The investigation into the incident at that time involved French officials and military secrets. The French military silenced the media about this incident, with only the Le Figaro newspaper briefly mentioning it on October 17th of the same year, with a mere 21 lines due to its particularly grave nature. A military court was convened to prosecute 6 employees of the PLM Railway, Paris-Lyon-Marianne, but they were acquitted because the harsh weather conditions and challenging terrain were deemed the primary causes of the catastrophe, in an act of remembrance and tribute in June 1923. Defense Minister Angel Maginot inaugurated a memorial statue for the victims at the Hoey Cemetery in 1961. The remains of the victims were later transferred to the National Military Cemetery, Lyon-le-Duau, on December 12, 1998. To this day, the Saint-Michel-de-Maurienne railway disaster remains one of the bloodiest railway accidents in history. It serves as a reminder of the tragedy of risks and challenges associated with operating trains in mountainous regions, particularly under harsh weather conditions.